Yes, here we go. It is Ask the Bus. Apologies, there's no TNF tonight. The judge, Mr. Kearney, is away on his holidays. So, what I was thinking was, since it's his first night, we'll let him away with a free night off. But I think it could be quite funny if over the weekend we decide to see if the big man fancies jumping on from abroad. You can only imagine if you think his views are savage on a Thursday and what you're looking forward to. Imagine with a few sangrias in him. Especially with the way this window is going as well. Big shout out to all you in the chat. Thank you for jumping on already. We'll do a wee live for a wee bit. We'll see how long we go. There's a few coming in. Warren's team talks in there, mate. There he is. I love Big Warren. Top boy. And he's saying he's hoping I'm well. I am well, mate. I'm good, man. Fucking annoyed about Oasis tomorrow. I bought tickets off a scammer. So I'm going to have to now go back in. I mean, before anyone thinks it's YouTube money I'm paying with, it's fucking not. If only. But I'm going to need to fucking go in the view go. So if we've paid this prick, you know what I mean? That plus a Google price. Now, if I was trying to catch a fly there, not that I live with a bunch of flies around me, by the way. It's just one wee tiny one. You just can't do a bit. Cat will get it. But aye. So now I'm gonna have to pay the Google price that I was trying to dodge paying, which is now that plus the scamming money. Stupid band. Wish they just never got back together. Saved a fortune. Anyway, I'll do it anyway. Just keeping a wee eye on the old Google site probably whilst I do the show as well, just because I'm looking for that price drop at some point to occur. Anyway, enough about me. Enough of that shite. Great to have so many of you on, as I say. Remember as well, please do, as you all have been recently, give us the shares that you could potentially do. I don't mean shares in the bus, just to be sharing your socials. That'd be great. Or at the very least, there's that flag. At the very least, give us a wee like or give us a dislike. I'm okay with that. And if you're watching and you've got a beer in the fridge, crack one open. And cheers to you all. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone's good. I was going to say about the old channel. You know, it seems to be doing all right. You know, I know we're not doing as many shows, and I apologise for that, but it's tricky. Do you know what I mean? Before we had this big sort of massive team, so if you're not going on, someone else could go on. And as we've discussed before, I started to feel quite rotten about it because, you know, if I wasn't making it and stuff, it's not incumbent on other people to be carrying that burden. So I feel better in my conscience just not having a live than you see that flying the screen now. I bet it's good. It feels better that, you know, if it's not going to happen, or I'm out doing my thing somewhere else, or quite often I've been working at a bar recently as well at the weekends, just to help a mate out, not because I'm looking for part-time work on top of what I do as it is, but because he's a good friend. So with stuff like that, I don't feel bad that there's not a show or someone's had to dig. No, I don't feel bad there's not a show, but I was beginning to feel bad that people are having to dig me out, if that makes sense, and sort of, you know, as I say, carry the burden of doing the show unexpectedly. So, yeah, I'm glad though the feedback in the shows right now seems to be really, really positive. Seems to be really good. I think at this time of year as well, if I'm honest, I think with Celtic sort of, as we call it, Groundhog Day, window after window, we're seeing people resonate maybe more with the rhetoric that you'll get on something like the Bhoycie Bus than what you will on every podcast. And it's not a dig at anyone, by the way, for a change. But what it does mean is I think sometimes it's this is the place where you come when you're wanting you're wanting to air out all your feelings, all your annoyance at certain aspects of the club. And here you're not going to get it sugar coated, as we discussed last night. And I'm not going to make a big deal of it more than I did last night. But football content awards and things like that. My reason for not accepting going forward with things like putting ourselves in that bracket is purely because I would hate to sanitize, the views that we share on the channel, and I think that's what's been so refreshing, probably for the viewer. Certainly for myself, I don't really have that much of a filter sort of button anyway. So for me, I think that if you're waiting for maybe an awards night and you're hoping to be in the mix for a nominee, a podium place, or heaven forbid a fucking award, need to rant on about for the next 10 years. I think in the meantime, it can end up sort of swaying how you talk. It can sway, maybe one of the judges is watching and maybe I don't want to swear so fucking much, you know what I mean? So what I like now is I could just carry on doing it exactly the way we do it, because I would rather have the guys like yourselves who watch it and watch the channel and enjoy it. I'd rather yous were kept getting the bus that yous have subscribed to, the bus that yous have, a lot of yous are members of. I think that matters more to me than fucking worrying about, oh, well, if we get this award, maybe, Mark, could you just tone it down a wee bit on Thursday, because remember it's the awards coming up and the judges might be watching. I'm not that fucking guy, to be honest with you. I'm just not that person. So it was nice of them to get in touch, of course. But, they obviously know we're shit hot as well. It's a joke. It's a wee joke at the end. But yeah, I'm not going to pander to that stuff. So it's good that we can just carry on and move on from all of that. But yeah, I think this time of year is why when the bus sort of comes alive, because as I say, you're going to get those home truths. You're going to get that honesty. You're going to get, I think, the feelings that a lot of people have shared on the bus without fear of favour or anything like that being lost in any other realm, whether it be media or any of that bollocks. So sitting back after last night, I know there was a few rants, particularly from myself, in fact only from myself. Jonathan spoke at length at times as well, but probably not as ranty a mood. There's plenty of reason for it, there's plenty of reason for people to be getting a wee bit cheesed off here. We obviously put clips on the TikTok as well, on the Bhoycie Bus, and I think that's quite insightful to see how other people are viewing what they're watching, because there's a lot of them who aren't guys, like we've got the channel like Ali, like Jim Dolan, like Graham Terrell, who just happened to be in the screen, Alex Forsyth, all these guys like who've been watching for so long. I think it's quite interesting, other people's point of view. Maybe just seen a clip, they probably didn't even know the channel existed. And there's a lot of agreement, by the way. A lot of agreement with the sentiments of these wee clips that I'm putting up. And there still is, though, of course, discerning dissenting points of view towards this sort of panic merchant display of emotion. They seem to think some, I think smaller numbers, to be honest, but some seem to think that is showing by going on these rants, and I don't think it's the case. I've got to be fucking honest with you. I absolutely I'm convinced the frustration that you get here is mirrored more often than not. And what worries me the most is if you're still condoning what you're seeing, then you're allowing yourself to be blinded to the reality of what it is you're actually looking at. Because when we have stats like today, everything Celtic posted, and they're a really, really interesting page on the old Twitter, because they do tend to get exclusives, or they do tend to know about transfer rumours quite early, or they've just got a very, very shit hot admin team who the second they see one they can get it up there. But it tends to be once it's concrete as well. And they sort of put a damning stat up today, and that was in Europe right now, in terms of transfer spend. Celtic set of £3 million they've spent so far. All right, 3 million. Net profit, fucking don't even get us into that, because I do include transfer fees for, despite them being delayed fees for the likes of Frimpong, there's still £5 million came in for that minimum. I look at £3 million that Celtic have spent, and the stat shows you we're 197th in Europe for what we've spent so far. So I casually tweeted, as you can imagine, in my usual patronising, condescending tone, there must be 196 clubs panic buying then, I assume. What does it make of that? 197th in Europe. Bear in mind, we were in the last 24, or the top 24 clubs in Europe. You could argue if you want to go down that road, because that's what we made in the Champions League. So we were. And by the way, considering how we fared against Bayern, we wouldn't even be 24th at those 24, I don't think. So when you look at it that way, you've got to say 197th in terms of transfer spend behind clubs like Wrexham, Swansea, Welsh clubs now that obviously have the benefits of English football, but certainly don't have the benefits of 60,000 or 52, 53,000 season ticket holders. Adidas merch deals that are in the elite group, Champions League money for the last 3 years at group stage level. They don't have any of those benefits, or the reputation and name of Celtic, which goes worldwide, which leads to so much in sales and things like that. It frustrates the absolute life out of me that we could still have dissenting voices when it's not being a panic merchant to say this is unacceptable. I knew that anyway. Then you get stats like 197th biggest spender. Celtic would probably still call it, wouldn't they? 100 with 197 biggest spenders in Europe right now. See, we're in the top 200 spenders. What more do you want? We play in Scotland, eh? Fucking Hibs are going to probably outspend us by the end of the week. You know what I mean? I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think it's planning. I feel like everything's a wee bit on a whim. And there's a lot of hope right now. And there's a lot of faith put in a manager that you're paid the big bucks, so therefore you're going to get us through it. Yeah? You're going to get us through these qualifiers. And if we have to go to Kazakhstan, I was saying it quite matter of fact, it was Bratislava last night, so apologies. Because it could be the team Kairat, I believe. I'm not sure if that pronunciation is correct, by the way. Anyone who's watched this channel more than once knows I do get pronunciations wrong, or turns of phrase wrong, quite regularly. But what we're leaving it all on, I think this is the hypocrisy or the irony. Oh, we just back the manager that much that we know he'll get us through it. Then it comes to transfers. Oh, we don't back the manager that much. Well, no, to get us the right players. I read the Celtic blog today. James Forrest, you know, the namesake of our winger, of course, who I know can divide opinion and stuff, but so can I. So I don't judge anything on that. I read an article, regardless of who writes it. Maybe if you've read more of certain folks' articles, you started reading them from their prism slightly. But in general, I read the article just based on what its content is. I think that's the most important thing, not because I think James Forrest is there to sabotage Celtic or anything like that. I read his article and he seems convinced on Celtic's sort of Celtic's narrative of the summer window, which I think on the bus we've all described as a successful window, albeit it was too little, too late. Our frustration was Adam Ida didn't get pre-season because Nicholas Kuhn, for example, was a shining example of how much you can benefit from that, as were others. And I think our form in pre-season led to Celtic having their best Champions League campaign, but so did the signings. And I don't think anyone can doubt that. When you look at Ida's sort of inadvertent he forced that goal anyway in the 1-0 win against Young Boys. He scored 2 away to Villa, albeit it was a 4-2 defeat. Don't tell me these guys weren't contributing at Champions League level. Arnie Engels started the vast majority of those games at Champions League level. And our Champions League displays went up. Our performance levels went up. Our points tally went up. And of course, naturally, our progression, albeit not to the knockout stage I would have liked, to the last 24 and a good account of herself against a European juggernaut was also contributed to massively by our new overpriced, overrated signings. You look at Trusty, for example, I think of away to Atalanta. May not contribute then, did he not? Yeah, yeah, absolutely did. Massively. But I think when I read James Forrest's article, it seems funny he's adamant that the narrative that this was overspending and it was proof that paying these sort of fees for players doesn't always work. He thinks that that came from within Celtic itself. Really interesting that to come. That he thinks these stories are sort of that could be getting peddled now. We'll need to accept that if Peter Lawwell runs Scottish football and all that, as the other side was saying for so long, we have to accept Celtic have people that can influence the media. The same way David Murray did it for years. If we want to say that, then it'd be foolish to think that we can't still have influence and sway in the media of what certain stories go out. I just would love to see if there's people that agree with that sort of narrative that's been formed and getting discussed more and more this summer could potentially have came from Celtic itself, as if to dissuade us or create that divide in the fan base and get those sort of happy clappers, if you want to call them that, on side with a narrative they can buy into and go, hey, look what happened when we spent 9 million on a striker last season. Well, he got 20 goals, scored at Champions League level, scored at Ibrox, scored against Rangers, obviously the same thing, but scored in derby games, let's just say that, scored at Champions League level, scored 20 goals overall, and was part of a trio who all got over 20 goals for the first time for Celtic, I think, in 50 years or some shit. I couldn't believe Sutton, Hartson and Larsson weren't the last time we had over 20 goals each for 3 forwards, but there you go, or 3 players within the squad. But there you go. It's very interesting, that point, and it made me think, I'd love to know what other people think on that. Battle. Sorry, not Atalanta, Bergamo, of course. I don't know where that part came from last year. I did my nut, and I hope we don't draw them again anyway, or I hope we don't draw any team that people want to just start calling by their capital city, or not their capital city, but the name of their city. If they've got a football team name, call them it, for fuck's sake. Bergamo. I did my head in that chat, man. Stephen Ray's in the chat. Great to have you back, mate. Not seen you in a long time. He says he's in Mexico. I'll bring up your comment, mate. Great to have you back on. Always good insight for yourself. I've always enjoyed debating with you. To be honest, on the whole, kind of agree with a lot of the points that you make, Stephen. I'll let everyone have a read over that. Let's have a wee sip of my Cruz Campo. It's not quite Mexican, mate, but I hate to operate with the handbrake half on. Will we ever see a time where Celtic have the best team in the park we could afford? Probably not. Yeah, that was kind of my rant last night, mate. The board's job is to support the product in the park to the best of their ability. Right now, are we seeing the best possible version of a Celtic football team provided by the board? No, we're not. And then you've got, of course, the frustration of, well, what is the direction? What is your plans with all our money? And that's what fans have every right to say. All our money. What's your plans for that? Why are you continually increasing prices or increasing volumes of things we can buy, items we can buy, such as the amount of football shirts has went up to 4 a season now, pretty much. They always find some angle to have an exclusive one. People now, this is the other one. That's what Adidas though. That's just what happens with Adidas, man. That's what Adidas do. That's great. Still Celtic who's got to sell them and got to peddle it. Adidas don't control Celtic's transfer spend though as well. What Adidas expect? Probably when they give clubs elite deals, is they expect that profile of said club to increase or improve with help of their funding. They kind of want Celtic wearing their shirt in as late a stage of the Champions League as possible, as they do all the clubs that they make the merch for. They don't expect just to bank it. So don't play with Adidas or any of that crap. That's just nonsense as well. All we want is, as I say, to see the best version of Celtic. The best version of a football team on the park, provided and supported as much as possible by the board. If you think we're getting that right now, I have to disagree with you. It's that simple. I can't run with that. I was getting some replies. I was talking about the TikTok earlier. One of the replies sort of leads to, that's right though, Bhoycie, you know, the club's not got any overhead costs. I mean, who's saying that? Who's alluding to the fact we don't think Celtic has overheads? But what we also have is major revenue streams, massive revenue streams. And we have accounts that were released, by the way, whoever it was. I'll call him Big Boy, just to patronise him. Listen, Big Boy, plenty of revenue streams out of Celtic still. And what we also have is accounts that are released. Half-year accounts, end-of-year accounts. They always and they continually show vast reserves of cash at Celtic. Now, I've spoke about rainy days coming. Is that what it's been saved for? Well, rainy days when you control the weather make no sense to me whatsoever. And Celtic control its own weather. Celtic are in charge of their destiny. If they want a rainy day, it's on Celtic that rainy day's occurred. If Celtic want more sunny days, more spring days, more European football in spring days, then it's on them. They've got an opportunity to influence that bit. But if they want a rainy day, that will 100% be all on them. And I'll have no sympathy if that were to happen. But albeit, as a fan, it's us who's put through the mire. Us who have to have the deflation, the disappointment, the heartache, the sadness, the rage. We've got to go through all those emotions because we're in as Celtic fans. You're in. You can't help it. Once you're in, you are in as a Celtic fan. You can't just turn it off like a tap. It doesn't happen. I've turned my love for football off broader than Celtic, probably. But Celtic itself, you can't just turn off like a tap, as I say. So that investment, that emotional investment is one thing. Then you take more and more financial investment from fans for more and more products, you'll argue. The main product's the one in the park. And you are not investing as heavily in that right now as another 196 teams in Europe. It's damning. It's absolutely damning. We're away to Aberdeen coming up. How are we all feeling about that? I mean, this is the Celtic side of last season, essentially. You know, KT's a huge upgrade at left back. Just not a slight on Greg Taylor. Kieran would be an upgrade at left back if we didn't have. We would need to have had one of the top 20 left backs in the world for him not to have been. Negrin right now gets ahead of Engels. But Yang starts football matches. Adamida has no competition, it seems, because even when we're at 0-0, Yamada can't get on, no opening day, and you don't leave it to. If it was the Postecoglou, of course, it was part of the process, part of the plan, and all that bollocks. But I don't subscribe to that. You make changes when it's at 0-0. If you've got a forward on that's worth his salt, he gets on. You get him on, whether you add him alongside Ida or you replace him with Ida if you think he's been ineffective. He comes on to change that game, though, or to get you that goal if he's got the faith in him. But we're a Nicholas Kuhn down this summer, who 36, 37 goal contributions last year. You don't just get to forget those. You don't just get to scrub them off and hope someone with 6 goal contributions in 60 games or whatever it is for Yang is going to make up those numbers. He's not. James Forrest got 1 goal last year, an amazing, amazing moment. Maybe my favourite moment of last season, if I'm honest. You can't just count on him now to replace those numbers. So a replacement we need to come in to supplement replacing those numbers. And maybe Negrin in midfield could be the creative spark that we need and get the sort of numbers from midfield that we maybe aren't getting from the central area as much right now. So then you've got a couple of options there to try and get those numbers back. such as that Nicholas Kuhn leaves in a vacuum. We've not done that. It's one hell of a roll of the dice. Aberdeen away. If you look at the fixtures right now, Aberdeen away, and then we go to, I think it's Falkirk, am I right? Let's just double check this before I make an ass. Aye, Falkirk on the Friday night in the League Cup at home, and then it's Champions League time. Then we've decided to not give up our fixture, which I think we had the option to do. Obviously, Rodgers wants the energy in the legs. He wants, the sort of get that 2 matches a week flow going as early as possible. I get that, to be honest with you. I don't think, regardless of whether it was Livy at home or not, I think the only tie they would have moved probably would have been against Rangers, if I'm honest. I think they might have, not that it's a great sign of strength mentally, but I think that might have been, in the middle of 2 qualifiers. But it feels like they both think this is a done deal. We're going to get through these qualifiers. Tell you what, you might not even get as far as that without riots, because I think Tawdry away, I didn't think Aberdeen looked great against Hearts from the highlights I watched. I watched the extended highlights, 6 minutes. But watching that, I didn't look great. I thought Hearts made them look very ordinary team. For a lot of periods last season, they were an ordinary team, despite their amazing start. They were an ordinary team in the Scottish Cup final. We were just extraordinarily bad. But if we get a defeat there, if we drop points there, the screw's going to start turning. And I think some who are in denial might find themselves letting their mask slip a bit as well. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got, of course, the other thing that's fucking me off right now as well. The transfer deadline for Champions League players. 7 days? Is that what we've got? So we play Aberdeen on Sunday. What's that? Another 3 days away. So say the result doesn't go away and Celtic do their usual reactionary pish. That would give us 4 days to get a player in for the Champions League and give him a maximum of 7 to 8 days prep time with Celtic to go into the start lineup. No pre-season benefits like we discussed earlier on this episode. None of that. We'll bring in new players for £30 million football matches to come in on the back of maybe a domestic draw or defeat if this hypothesis works out. I'm not hoping for that. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility. And then, where'd you go? You expect these guys just to hit the ground running? Or is that what you're going to do against Celtic when Rodgers walks out the building? Are you going to say, well, we got him a £6 million player. How did the Champions League qualifiers go, eh? Because you got him, 48 hours before the deadline shut. Fucking barely knows the first names of half his teammates. Is that what we want? Anyone who thinks these qualifiers are a gimme is an idiot. Nothing is a gimme at this level. I'll go back to one of my trademark statements on the Champions League. The Champions League demands respect. Celtic have never shown the Champions League the respect as the world's premier club competition, the respect that it deserves. There's Sonny Boy. I mean, this is brilliant. He says, I think we can actually sign 2 players up to 24 hours before the first game. Maybe there is that sort of leeway, Sonny. You're probably right, mate, and thank you for pointing that out. Imagine if we did. Is that fair? All right, mate, nice to meet you. There's your kit. Hope it fits. £30 million game. I put you in the first team. No club operates like that, Sonny. There's 196 clubs in Europe that don't. And they don't have crucial, very few of them have crucial Champions League playoff games coming their way. Very few of them. Yet they are more organised for English Championship seasons. Probably a lot of English League One clubs have spent more than us. Portuguese League, Dutch League, fucking Austrian League will have spent more. I just seen a player go to France from Norgeland. This has got me thinking as well. There's another point. I know I'm off on one, but this is what happens when I'm live and one. Norgeland, Scandinavian side, Trying to work out which one. I think they're Swedish. They've just sold the centre half to the French league. I can't remember the club. 15 million euro. 15 million euros. We've been told it was a great deal to sell Nicholas Kuhn for 19 million euros. 36, 37 goal contributions at Celtic, playing at a higher standard, in my opinion, I'm guessing. Not that I watch much Swedish football, but let's be real. We have the seasons. For a start, it's an easy sell. It should be an easy argument to get out Scandinavian football, such as their calendar of how they play their season. Of course, that's not ideal. Of course, there's usually promises made to go. Like, if a club comes in, I can get out. Nordsjælland can still get £15 million. 50 million euro, I should say, to the French league. We get 19 million euro for 37 goal contributions last year, including Champions League last 24 matches away to Bayern Munich goals. Again, this has been amazing at business. Notwithstanding that, I wonder if Nordsjælland will sit in that 15 million with the centre-back equivalent, or the defender equivalent. I don't know if he's a centre-back, I made that up. Right, the defender equivalent of Marco Tilio. And say, but I tell you this, he doesn't get to go anywhere until we've got a replacement in. No. Nordsjælland will have a plan. Whatever scale that's on is up to them. And it will be relative. But they'll have a plan for what they're going to do with a £15 million. But they won't be relying on a Marco Tilio level defender to have to remain at the club till they form a plan in the first place. It's bollocks, guys. Start getting real. Utter nonsense. There's other Scottish clubs in Europe as well tonight. Of course, we should be cheering them on. Any wee help with the coefficient we can get. I know our individual coefficient level is fucking dross, 57th in Europe or something like that. I suppose it's a bit higher than the transfer expenditure stat. But 57th in Europe, well, Rangers are between 20 and 30, I think. 22nd, something like that. It could be higher. We're right now going for 55 on it. Down at 57th. Who said the Champions League football here? Us or them? We keep accepting this. It's bizarre. It's just fucking annoying. So, yeah, good luck to Dundee United and Hibs. I think it's both of them that are in action tonight. And I sincerely hope they both progress, because I'm a fan, obviously, of Scottish football. But sadly, we might need you all to do as best as you possibly can, coefficient-wise, to try and prop us up a wee bit further. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. I will let us all go now. I'm sorry I'm being miserable at the moment. It's just genuine frustrations at what I'm watching. Do you know what I mean? It's I mean, you've got to also compound my frustration with what we actually seen as a display at the weekend. I think some think it could have been a cricket score. I think Celtic played particularly well overall. And if they had, it would have been 3-4 goals, as well as the woodwork hit a few times. And 2 of those hits off the woodwork. Come on, it's a reach. But yeah, there's Snowdrop. He came in, he says, so no TNF. Sorry, mate. The judge is on holiday. I wanted to say I saw another YouTube channel this week talking about something Mark mentioned weeks ago. He's a trailblazer, Snowdrop. He's an absolute trailblazer, mate. The judge. That's what it's all about. Hugo Farr comes in. Bhoycie, couldn't want to go to the Hugo. What can you do? Oh, I love these ones. Do you honestly think the boy from Nordsjælland didn't want to go when he heard he could be going to Ligue 1 in France? Come on, Hugo. Think about it. Of course he wanted to go too. Nordsjælland managed to get 15 million fucking euros in Scandinavian football. 15 million euro for a defender. We sell a guy who's scoring goals in the Champions League, whose output was the equivalent to about, I don't know, goals and assists. I'm going to just throw a percentage at it as a guess. Let's say Nicholas Kuhn contributed to 15 to 20% of Celtic's goals and assists last season. 15%. Does that seem about fair? We let him go for marginally more than that, with 4 years left in his deal. They all want to go when there's a bigger club involved, or a bigger league involved, I should say. A bigger league's probably a better way of putting it. They all want to go. You can't use that as an argument. He signed a contract with Celtic for X amount of years. It's incumbent on Celtic then to get the maximum value. I wonder with the Nicholas Kuhn one, just to contradict myself, if there was a release clause in that. I do wonder that. Jim Dolan. Jim, you're probably the only one who thinks this. He says, good show, Bhoycie. All your views were spot on. Oh. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Jim. Someone's got to think that. Right, anyway, I'm getting the fuck out of here. That was a good fun for 36 minutes. Again, apologies that Mark's not here. I am going to try, though, and get us a wee show with them full of sangria. I think that'd be good fun. Full of sangria and paella. I don't actually know he's went on holiday. Might not even be Spain, but we just decided it is. We'll try and get a wee show set up with him abroad. I think that could be box office. In the meantime, you're going to need to deal with me. I definitely won't be on tomorrow. I'm going to spend fucking... don't let me do this with Oasis. I'm going to do it, but... Jeez, oh. Hope the cat likes beans on toast. That's all I'm saying. Right, I'm getting out here before I waffle anymore. See you all later. Cheers.